Hello and welcome to the Exponential Potential Podcast, helping you thrive in times of change, with your hosts Claire Oatway and Jennifer Evans, aka Zen Jen, along with expert guests sharing with you uplifting, inspiring and insightful stories, groundbreaking, rule-shaking ideas, fresh new exciting perspective and truly transformational tools and top tips, as well as generous gifts for you, our listeners, on an array of topics, all designed to help you thrive in all areas of life. So sit back and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome everybody to another fabulous episode of Exponential Potential Podcast. And we continue our Feb Love Fest. Not all about smushy and squishy. This is all about you, your self-worth, your self-love, relationships. And today I am really excited to introduce our wonderful guest, Laurie Ritchie of Whole Arts Connection. Thank you, Laurie, for joining us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for asking me. I'm so honored and excited to spend some time with you.
Thank you.
My great friend across the pond.
Across the pond. Yes, and likewise, Laurie. Really, I love it whenever we get together and we have a chat. It's always really juicy, and there's always some moments of reminders for us, but also it is really expansive and exponential, isn't it, when we have our conversations?
Absolutely. We have that same spirit.
Crazy
of play.
Play and adventure.
Of rebelhood too.
Yes. So we're going to dive in, and today is all about what in the world has creativity got to do with self-worth. And as you can tell, behind Laurie is some of her stunning art pieces. For those that are watching on YouTube, if you're not watching on YouTube, you might want to go and look there as well. Could you just move to the side slightly, because it's one of my favorite photos. Thank you. Paintings, not photos. Thank you. So behind Laurie, she has this massive tree, and it just looks so expansive and exponential.
For me, it reminds me to look up.
Yeah.
And also have perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And, creativity is about gaining different perspective, and so that's really what that tree's all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you feel the energy of it, actually. I really do feel that. So we're going to dive straight in. I'll introduce Laurie. So Laurie Ritchie, she is an international selling artist, and I have bought a couple of pieces of her as well. She's commissioned a couple of pieces for me, and I love them. She's a writer and a poet, and her writing and poetry is just so activating. And whenever I read a piece of your poetry, it always just hits me right in the heart. And it, comes from love. It really does. And Laurie has an amazing book called Art Felt Inspiration. Lovely. Let your freak fly. She's recently launched a publication of her Art Felt Oracle deck, which we are going to do a reading at the end of the podcast, and it has all this amazing artwork and then some prose or poetry on the back, and it's a wonderful, very, very unusual and very different oracle deck, and it's again incredibly activating, and it's sort of it's an adjunct to her Artfelt book. Laurie, I understand, well, I know you have, but you've helped countless individuals in realizing their creative dreams, acting as a creativity catalyst to the stumbling blocks of following their hearts. you believe that everything we do in play. So everything we do in play is a metaphor for life and its lessons. I want to ask you a bit more about that in a moment. As an expressive art facilitator and mental health occupational therapist, Laurie loves creating spaces that are fun and revealing for the purposes of developing creativity, clarity, and confidence. And you work with individuals and groups both virtually and in person if they are local to St. Louis in
Three.
Missouri. I was like, where? Oh, yeah, Missouri, over there in the United States. But I'm sure you also would be open to doing retreats and things as well in different areas.
Absolutely. I would love,
Yeah,
yeah, love to coordinate that with
yeah,
be awesome.
yeah. I think, yeah, I would love to work with you on that level actually in retreats. And talking of love, you have been married for 35 years to the love of your life with two children and two pups. Your children are grown and flown the nest, but yes, that's quite amazing that you have.
Rarer and rarer, huh?
Yeah, 35 years. So congratulations. And I know Laurie to be an absolute total adventurer and totally practices what she preaches. And you know, the way that she plays in life is incredible, and it has such an amazing impact on those around us. So
Mm.
I would love to know what you mean by the metaphor, you know, your metaphor that what we do in play is a metaphor for life and its lessons.
Well, it is very curious, but not so. But anytime that you are doing an art piece, and I'll just start with that. The
Mm.
things that come up on the page are exactly the issues that you're dealing with out there, or the things that you find that you struggle with in life. If you look at it as a metaphor for the things that you're working on, it's always it becomes the same thing. It is a metaphor all the
Mhm.
time. And so it's very, I just find it, like whenever I'm doing an art piece or working with someone, it's like, I know. How did Oh, and it really is our inner self trying to be expressed. And so the curious things that seem like woo-woo, that seem like, yeah, I mean, sometimes I just giggle with what pops up because
Mhm.
just seems like, how in the world did that come up? And yeah, it's always a metaphor for what's actually going on. And I think it's just an expression of your inner that is coming out. It's not like some magical sign. It really inner, which is all creativity is this inner expression of what's trying to be expressed.
So it's almost through subconscious.
Mhm.
Our subconscious comes through on the paper.
Yes,
So it's an amazing tool for healing, I would
right.
imagine.
So just like any art, as you're looking and you're in a museum and you may see something different that your friend that's looking at the same artwork,
Mhm.
um, that is the key to what's trying to be expressed inside is that
Mhm.
you have a different filter about what's coming up. And so when you're working on art, that metaphor is key to you. You're going to see things in there that does need to be expressed. So is a metaphor for what's going on.
So very powerful, a really
Very
powerful tool. Yeah,
powerfully.
yeah. So how is creativity related to self-worth? How,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
yeah. So before we even get there, I think we need to look at like what really is creativity and why might it
Mm.
be so difficult for people. So creativity
Sorry,
is
just say that again, Laurie. So what is creativity?
and
And
why that might be difficult for some people, right?
yeah, because creativity is difficult for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And so if you think about creativity as something completely new, something totally different, something that has not been thought of before, something that is like totally a unique thing out of all the people, out of all the things that have been done over all the years, like holy crap, that's a lot of pressure. That's
Mm,
like pretty intimidating, right? And so to that I think that just, sets up right away for people why that might be difficult. I mean, how can I think of something different? And there's a few other things like I was listening to a podcast the other day, and he was talking about in order to be creative, you are a group of one. You're all alone out on a limb thinking thinking or doing something that is very different. And for all our lives, most of us have tried to fit in.
mhm,
So if you're wanting to do something different and you're all alone out there, it can feel pretty alone
mm,
or if you're wanting to be a part of the group. Or criticism is always a big one for people if you're doing something different, and we've always been taught the right and wrong way to do something, and you're thinking of a new way. There's bound to be criticism that follows you, or there's this fear of who the hell am I to do this?
yeah,
I remember when my book came out, and I was thinking, God, there's so many other people that have could write this better, who has so much more skill and ability than me. And so there was a lot of feeling of not enoughness in
mhm,
figuring that out. Um, again, I mentioned that, there's the anxiety of comparisons where you're
mhm,
we're looking at, so and so, and there's, in your head maybe a right way and a wrong way how to do something, and feeling uncomfortable about yeah, and yeah, I always say, as we know that comparisons are the thief of joy. Um,
love that expression.
and
Yes.
then one of the last things that I thought of is that, if it's already been done in such a way and you have a time that needs like a crunch time that it needs to come out, why the hell am I going to try to reinvent the wheel?
Mhm,
And uh, and so add all that stuff together, why wouldn't it take some great self-worth in order to overcome all those things? Because that's a lot. That's a lot. And so
mhm. But also when you and we'll talk a bit more about what creativity is, um,
mm,
because we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves around creativity, and we overcomplicate it, don't we? We make it so complicated that, oh, I'm going to be creative, and but it can be such a simple thing. But I think when we are in our creative flow, it feeds our soul, doesn't
oh,
it?
absolutely.
It nourishes us. It's you're giving yourself permission to have joy, to actually take time out and find joy and happiness through creativity.
Absolutely. The thing is that we have spent our entire lives living from one side of a coin. We're really two sides of a coin, and one side, the main coin, the side of the coin that we're most familiar with, is this left side of our brain, in which that we've been taught there's a right way and a wrong way, and there's
Mm-hmm.
mistakes and there's experiences, and people have more experiences and more knowledge and more know-how, and to work from that aspect is what schools are all about. and
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the flip side, where for some people might be a little woo-woo, but in listening and tying back to Jennifer Huff, who we both have as a wonderful mentor, there's these wormholes that connect
Mm-hmm.
in every cell of our body that connects us to all that is out there. And I like to, I'm not sure where I heard this. It might have been in Big Magic by Liz Gilbert. I'm not sure if
Mm-hmm.
that book, but she talks about, and I share the same vision, that there's like little ideas of solutions of stuff that are like running around there in the netherworld, like all these, things that are just waiting to be tapped into. And
Hmm.
and so when we can open ourselves to, like I said at the beginning, there's this expression that is waiting, just waiting, aching to come out. And so when we can reach in through into that other world and yank out, and it's all there. It's all there all the time. And so when we can do that, it is soul connecting. It's life-giving. And it becomes like this, and I'm sure everybody has had that experience where when they are truly in their flow, in their creative flow, all time disappears.
Mm.
You're like, just full of, yeah, this creative, juicy joy that
Mm.
that there is no right or wrong. It really does not matter. It doesn't
It's
matter.
it's taking away, like you say, getting it right or being getting it perfect, and
Yeah,
reminding yourself, well, why am I doing this? And it is to bring you joy and to play, isn't it? That yeah, and also just to touch on that every single, even though there's these ideas and things that may have been done before, but every single one of us is so unique.
absolutely. So I have this excuse me, I have this thing that I like to remember is
Mhm.
um that when I've been to many of those, like I'm not sure if over there, or but you have the paint and sip classes where you go to like these fun classes where they have an instructor, a painting instructor,
Mhm.
one, sits and they have a little, glass of something and everybody's painting the same picture and she explains exactly how to do it. And everyone's at the end turns out different. Everyone
Mhm.
has their own hand of how that turns out. So we are all different, and our creativity is going to make it come out the way, that has our voice. I mean, I think
Mhm.
people who are writing, um um they get accustomed, we understand
Yes.
voice in writing, but there's definitely a voice in our artwork or how you cook, or that's another thing is creativity. My shtick is often in writing and paint and movement. But yeah, creativity can even come. My parents are engineers, or my dad's
Mhm.
there's engineers. Creativity can come in the most left-brained, things. It's just how you do them in your own voice, in your own, yeah, mixing it up.
And creativity can be so. Creativity is basically when it doesn't exist,
Right.
and you create something new. So
Yes.
that could be moving around furniture in one of your rooms.
Yes. It could be. It
Yeah.
could be.
And
Yeah.
you mentioned cooking.
Yes.
That is incredibly creative.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I do that all the time because I never have exactly all the things that I need on my recipe, right? Yeah.
But yeah, you think about creativity, you're taking a vegetable or a piece of meat, and you're creating something completely different from the original form.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Creativity, it is something totally new, but it does come from creativity is coming from your experience and what you've known,
Hmm.
and adding a little, a twist to it. And, like kids, when they're like before we're 8 years old and we recognize ourself outside of ourself, it normally comes around eight, um, that you they don't care. They dig out their crayons and they scribble on it, and they're not asking, is this right or wrong? But they don't have a concept of what's been done before or right or wrong.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then when we get older, that creativity can come as we're willing to step out of um, like needing it to be to be
Perfect.
perfect, or the
Yeah.
way someone's done it. And as we begin to, and this is the self-worth part, as we begin to recognize those nudges, because I think we've all felt those, like little
Hmm.
nudges, like, what if I did it this way? And those, if you're don't have those, that self-worth to trust yourself,
Hmm.
to believe in what's happening, that it's this, it's this other world, it's this our inner world saying, it's bigger, you can do it.
Hmm.
And if we don't have that self-worth, then we'll push those down. And the more we get used to, and I think a lot of us have gotten used to pushing that down, then it's harder and harder to hear and also to act on them.
Hmm. And also, the more you do things, be the more you are creative. As you
Uh-huh.
said, one of the things it brings is confidence.
Yes.
And when you have more confidence, it creates more self-worth.
Yes, it's like it's just a circle of,
Mm.
yeah, of juicy goodness. Yeah.
Mm.
So
So,
as you said, one of the ways that you help yourself here is by gaining that confidence, and and feeling the joy. And the joy does come from that connection. And so
mhm,
as we raise our frequency or our vibration or that joy level, it helps us to hear. It helps us to hear those nudges. And yes, it does help us gain that confidence in order to jump into that.
mm,
And to be a giant shift. I always say, like, little nudges to try, just one tiny little step different, that is more in tune with your vibration, and why we're all here, why you're here, is like this giant trajectory as we
mhm.
move forward. And so we're not talking about, you know, jumping out of your job tomorrow and
Yeah, so that was my question is how do you engage your creativity? You're talking about these little nudges.
yeah.
So what does that nudge look like? And how do you even hear it? Because we don't always take notice or observe those, or certainly we don't act on those nudges. So when you're talking about nudges, is that how you would step into and start gaining creativity?
I would even take
Engage.
one step back. I would just start giving yourself more room to play, more room to just try, like, and what I mean by play, for a lot of people, might feel like really sillyhood.
Mhm. We're good at that.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
And because kids really get this, and the more that you're able to like act like a kid, you do get into more of a child brain, where it
Mhm.
so my free gift for this is like 33 short ways that you can tap into your creativity. And they are,
Awesome.
yeah, they are like really simple things. Like, one of the things that I just did with somebody is like taking a piece of paper and just crumbling it up and pulling it apart, and then looking at the image that it might create, and then writing from that, that image, or asking yourself a question from that image, and
Mhm.
just allowing the words to flow off, to spill off. Someone said that before. Spill off the end of your pen, which
Mhm.
and set the timer for, like 5 minutes. And in these exercises, you may be asking yourself, why am I doing this? So what is this doing? And it really is just allowing yourself to act freely, to play in the expansiveness that may come just in that space of, yeah. And it does, yeah, it helps you to hear, helps you to hear.
And talking of play, My dog, I don't know whether you can see in the blurred background, but my dog's just walked in from her
Ah,
walk. She's come to say hello. And the listeners may have heard her drinking, gulping a load of water. But the first thing she does is to come to say hello and engage with me and go, "Hello, Mum, I'm back." And
yeah,
dogs are brilliant at being so playful and
yes.
reminding us of being playful. So that timing was really funny.
I thought someone was sawing in the background.
You could hear it.
I don't know, my thought process just kind of ran silently, so I'm not even sure if I made sense, but
No, I could hear you, but I could also hear Poppy having a nice big deep drink.
but anyway,
So play. So
yes, those practices do open us up to be able to just respond without it really
mhm,
saying. And what I love about art, and doing artful things, or even in writing, it's something that you can have this little small playground with,
mhm.
and it's quick. You can do it anywhere, and you can throw it away afterwards if it
Yeah.
feels but I always say, and this is how my cards were born. We're going to play with our cards later. Whenever anybody
Yes.
my classes, I tell them, don't, you may look at your art and say, oh my God, because we are the most critical when we
Mhm.
can be, when we come out of that delicious, luminous space where, we're letting it all, hang out and connecting with the page. And we come out and we're looking at it and we get very judgmental, don't we? We look back
Mhm.
like, oh, that's so childlike. That's so this, that's so that. Or we want to understand it right away, which is, nothing against art therapists, but I'm not, we're not, I don't believe in trying to diagnose or find meaning behind what you wrote, at least not right away. I like to just respond to it and write in it, and then sometimes needing to put it away and
Mhm.
pick it out later. And we have such softer eyes with anything really, but also with the art or any kind of visual work that we've done. And we can, look at it in different ways, step back from it, and take on a little bit more understanding when we're
Mhm.
so close up to it and not quite so judgmental. And so I was going to say my cards, these are all pieces of art that I had made before that I'm not gonna hang it on the wall, but that I came back to, and there was like a little corner or a little, that I was able to cut out, and I just held on to them. And it wasn't until that I decided, wow, I could use these in my practice. I also write, I write a lot of poetry, which I know for me, I know that it's not coming from me because I've never liked poetry in the past. You
Mhm.
know, I'm not a poetry person. I wish they would just say what they're going to say. I can't figure them out.
Too damn complicated.
Yeah. And but I always had judgment around
Mhm.
poetry because I don't know if that's good poetry. How do you judge good poetry? I don't know if I don't know much about rhythm or I don't even know all the words. And
It's subjective, isn't it?
it really is like all art is.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I threw those on the back because I have so much of them. But
Mhm. And that kind of leads us into how do we get past the self-doubt? So, we've got these little nudges of wanting to express ourselves in any
mm,
in any shape or form that might look like, whether that's cooking, painting, crafting, playing a musical instrument, interior decorating, gardening is another creative
yeah,
aspect, isn't it?
big it is
Yeah,
big.
love gardening. So, but how do we, if we wanted to sort of push ourselves out of our comfort zone, because that's what it is when we're doing something new, it
And
usually
building your
means
self-worth.
you're building your self-worth. Yes. How
Yeah,
do we move beyond that self-doubt? You just talked a lot about judgment. So I
yeah,
think that's a good place to sort of embellish a little bit more about and getting it right or getting it wrong.
yeah. Well, first I'd like to just go back to, again, if you know that you're connected to all that is through every cell in your body, like Jennifer was talking about. Where's there room for self-doubt?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you have and it's source energy running through you
Mm.
because it's in our DNA, we are an extension of the Big Bang. Yeah. And if so,
And
we're connected to that.
and so first is truly understanding that and believing that. So there is no right or wrong.
Hmm. That
There
just,
is, yeah, it just is. Yes. And so there's no room for judgment and feeling like you got it right or wrong. That being said, it is a really it's a great practice to get comfortable with being uncomfortable,
mm,
because doing something new always is a little bit uncomfortable because we've not done it before. And so we have to be able to give ourselves a little bit of permission and compassion to suck.
yeah. Yes. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's rubbish. It
Yeah.
just, yeah.
I mean, you're not going to play in the symphony the first time you pick up a clarinet. And and it's
No?
and it's funny, isn't it funny how we give our children much more compassion to be able to have those learning experiences,
Mm,
but we don't
mm,
give ourselves like, as adults, we're supposed to know everything right off the bat.
mm,
And it's silly to think so, and things just take practice. So choose something, whatever it might be. I mean, like mine is art and writing and movement and voice and jewelry making,
yeah, I make a little
but
jewelry as well.
so choose something that just entices you and start there and give yourself the opportunity to suck and
Mhm,
just, yeah, and know that, like I can make mistakes, and but I'm just having fun with something new, and allow it to be the exploration, the discovery. Maybe
mhm,
not everything that you thought it was going to be, but it's just something new. And we keep ourselves, for those of us, I know what this isn't the month, but coming out of January, we keep ourselves younger by expanding our brain, and all our selves are younger when we try new things.
because we're regenerating them.
We're regenerating them.
Mm, mm. And something that you mentioned earlier about curiosity.
Uh-huh.
I think, curiosity is a really important element of coming from that place of curiosity rather than judgment.
Yes. And so I
Be
think I mentioned,
curious.
yes, I think I mentioned this before, but like, you know, um, simple ways that you can be creative, like the curiosity of like you're loading your dishwasher. And you might say, how could I do this different? What might be a different? I swear, do you load your dishwasher the same way every time? Is there a certain way?
Yeah, there is actually. There is.
Mine is different every single time. Like I load my dishwasher the same time. Or again, one of my favorite questions from Jennifer Huff from The Wide Awakening is, how can I make this more fun? As
Yes.
I'm sitting in front of my computer all day. How can I make this more fun? Maybe I might be, doodling every now and then. I always now I light a candle before I start. And
Mm,
yeah, and so it's not even um like I said, they don't have to be huge shifts of being creative, never done before in all the, time of the world through all people. It's just, how can you do this differently? And
mhm.
And I think as we do that, again, it helps us to be able to be more flexible and like things that are thrown at us. When we think of, in our families that, uh, the various things that might happen that throw us out of our game that might take us out,
Hmm.
think on our feet and even if you're not in a business in which you're trying to be more creative, or it just helps us to be more flexible and see more opportunities to be able to roll with the punches.
Yeah, yeah.
And
My favorite things that I love to do, and I'm sure you do too, is I stick my headphones on, especially if my body's a bit and I've been working and I'm like, okay, I need a break, I need a reset, I need to do something a bit more fun. I get my favorite tunes, I get my headphones on, and I start dancing. I dance around
yeah,
the office, or I go out and dance around the terrace, or I dance in the kitchen, or and with my headphones on, it's brilliant. And Dom, my wonderful partner, is working in his workshop down in what we call the cantina because I live in Italy. Most of you know that, a lot of you might know that, and he can hear me wooing and
ah,
woohoo and singing. God forbid. And he's downstairs in the workshop, which is like, so I'm quite loud and I have such a blast. And it feels
nothing like
so, yeah, it feels so energizing. Yeah, that's creative, right?
absolutely because that
Absolutely.
yeah, that movement is movement I include in most of my practices with people because you can't do anything creative without movement, even if you're
Hmm.
singing. You're
Hmm.
moving your diaphragm, your epiglottis, your tongue, your mouth. So everything focuses on movement. We're made to move. And so that
Yes.
you tapped on, one of the most basic ways in order to shake up that creativity. And so I always say, whenever you're stuck, whenever you're, yeah, just blocked in any moment, whether it's at work or whether you're at home with the kids and, they're driving you nuts. Yeah. Go
Banging
shut
you.
the door and dance a crazy jig and it
Yeah.
will totally change the mood.
Yeah, well, it shifts the energy, doesn't it? So, just shaking, just doing which is what I'm doing now, just
Yeah.
shaking out, shaking the body and
Yeah.
yeah, having a jiggle and a wiggle,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
jiggle and a wiggle. Um,
Or
yes.
or going out. I mean, I always I love the outdoors and it's,
Mhm.
giving as well. And so to go out and along the way, I'll always like look for anything that stands out that you might be able to put in your pocket. That is something that is, I always say either pleasing or not pleasing because
Oh,
yeah, they're always great metaphors for what's going on in our life. And so I will, bring it back and I might make an actual thing or I might just put them in front of me and
what
just
sort of things? What sort of things are you picking up on your walks?
like interesting looking leaves or a
Mm.
rock or various stick or sometimes it's garbage.
Oh,
Um yeah, and I will bring it back. Um and yeah, and so I'm like trying to think the time that I brought back garbage, it did have me focus on what is the garbage that is clouding my life right now.
mm.
What is it, that people are dropping? Here's, a great example of metaphor. What are the things that people are dropping into my life that is clouding
Mm.
now, clouding my beauty? And so yeah, various things like that. Uh, another, I was writing down, to me, there's always this question of, like, why am I doing this? And is it selfish that I'm spending my time, doing this? What is it really doing? when there's so many practical things to be done.
Such as a whole book of to-dos, yeah,
Yeah,
to-do list.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
exactly.
should be working on that presentation for work.
Right. Or I'm going to be picking the kids up from school in a half. I was a stay-at-home mom for several years. Um, and yeah, or like I didn't do the dishes yet. And, my kitchen's a mess. And my husband's not going to understand that I, took some time out to play in dirt and rocks and,
You sound like a cave woman.
yeah, right. I would challenge anyone to say that time spent, and there's been studies done that even 20 minutes a day, but time spent to connect to your heart, your soul, things that bring you joy, that does not ripple out in a very positive way to
Mm.
everyone around you, whether it's directly or indirectly. And so in terms of creativity, um, it is now the number one thing that Fortune 500 companies are looking for. It's not
Mm.
intelligent. And with the
Interesting.
world, yeah, with the world as changing as it is right now, and with such polarities, um, creativity is so important that I mean, they've been bringing in artists to work with their staff in order to help them to think more creatively out of their box.
Hmm.
And honestly, that is all, that creativity is just a response to an angst. That's what all these ideas running around in the netherworld is all of us have been throwing out these feelings of angst, whether it's, like how to solve, racism, or as simple as personally, how do I solve my own depression? And
Hmm.
that gets thrown out into this netherworld, and, the best that we can do in order to, hear that and to act on it is to raise our frequency. So doing that, I mean, just, like, feeling more joy
Hmm. Feeling
and
lighter.
yeah, feeling lighter, getting rid of the resistance, anything that is keeping back that flow, as well as gaining the courage to act on those nudges that you see.
Mhm. And
And
those nudges can be, and I mean, I had an interesting conversation. We've mentioned Jennifer Huff quite a bit in this
yeah,
podcast, but that's because she's how
on,
we met and continues to be one of our mentors. And
right.
that, I did an amazing interview with her that was in January. So please go and check that out about we all have superpowers. But something that, um, we talk about is in that interview, and something that we also implement in our daily lives when we remember, is that you might be feeling low and depressed, which is really really heavy, but you can't make that jump from there to feeling really amazing and sort of up here, in the stratosphere of feeling so much joy. So you're talking a lot about the nudges, which is sort of taking steps
Mm,
towards that feeling a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter, and finding your way, whether that's through breathing, through movement, through listening to some uplifting music, um,
your
all of
pod
those. Sorry, say that again.
listening to your podcast.
Listening to our yeah, listening to our podcast, yay. But yeah, listening to something uplifting to take you to those steps of being in that
Yeah,
space of play and creativity. Because as you were saying before, one of the things that companies are realizing is when you're in your creative space, that's where ideas and solutions just come, and that confidence and that clarity.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, it's so powerful.
it is so powerful. And so, I've been noticing lately and asking the question, knowing all of this and how good it makes us feel, why don't we do it more often?
Mm.
Is it that these self-care, and I'm talking about, like, I'm not talking about bubble baths
Mhm.
and, those things that are, going to get a massage, that are easy to. I know that self-care is sometimes the stuff that is harder to do, like whether it's, paying attention to what you put in your mouth, or what you put, in your head, what kinds of things that you involve yourself in that are good for you. And you
Mhm.
come out of them. Like, I never walked out of the gym saying, "Oh, damn, I wish I didn't do that for the last hour." And even as someone whose, whole work revolves around creativity and, doing some really fun stuff, it is sometimes hard to, like, jump into that. And I
Mhm.
why is that we don't give ourselves permission?
And I think that's it. It's to give ourselves permission
Yeah.
to make a choice, isn't it? It's a choice point. Do I want to do the dishes in the kitchen and I really don't want to do it right now?
Mm.
Or do I want to do something much more expansive that will feed me and nourish my soul and bring me joy? Because it's putting an importance factor on it, isn't it? And
Yeah.
realizing how important play and creativity is, and then the impact that has on everybody around you.
Yes.
And
And
and then and then when you get to do the dishes, you're in a much better frame of mind, and actually you put your music on and you have a lot more fun loading your dishwasher in a different way, or
yes.
actually physically washing up.
And so, like you said, I think it does it's there's a knowing that making this choice that sometimes feels like this is different. It's
Mhm.
I normally do. It feels silly. It feels, whatever it is. And remembering the really yummy connection that you always get. And I tell you, it doesn't take, like, I'm keep on going back to exercise, because for me, it's often, especially if I'm out of a routine of it, it's hard to make myself do it. And
Mhm.
and it always, like you were talking about, dancing in
Mhm.
your room, it gives you a boost. So just remembering that, and it doesn't take long. Within, the first couple of minutes, you're like, "Oh, this is why
I feel
I
good.
I feel good." And it does
Yeah.
that. They, like, as I said, studies say 20 minutes a day, you need to connect with that right brain, creative, compassionate, loving soul
Mhm.
connection to make a dramatic difference in the rest.
Mhm. And the rest, so 20 minutes a day to make that dramatic difference for the rest of your day. And
Which
then
is,
the more you get into that habit, it
it's not difficult.
no,
It's
because it's fun.
make it, yeah, because
Yeah.
you're striving for it. I put the way, but we drew a card before we started, and it's like, I forget that drink of creativity that I need, that taps me back into that loving connection, that loving
Mhm.
of, yeah.
So we're going to do a card reading in a minute. Go on, you've
Okay.
got something that, but before we do the card reading, there's just one question that I think is very, very helpful. So I know, so for some people, creativity is really tough, and actually, when they try and be creative, it makes them feel a lot worse because it takes them back to school, to a time where they were told that what they painted or what they drew or whatever medium they did it in was rubbish. So it actually triggers those memories of, I'm just going to feel worse because I know I'm no good. And I know we talked about judgment, but this is a little bit more than judgment. This is kind of talking about triggers of us really not.
Yeah, deeper. Deeper. It's
Yeah.
almost PTSD of, yeah, and honestly, I work with a lot of people like that, that,
Okay.
that are, yeah, I say, show me someone that has that much, anxiety around creativity, and I'll show you someone who has lived their entire life bound by rules and shoulds and have tos, or they have gained a lot of success by following the rules and doing all the right things.
Hmm.
And my thing is, one, you know when it's not working for you, but two, even the person that has gained a lot of success, I would venture to say it's not sustainable because you're not connecting with your own soul purpose. It's not, and so, I can hold my own story up that I started off as a creative kid. I did a lot of artwork. I did every art kit out there, and but I was told from a young child that artists don't make money, that
Mm.
and I was smart and did well in school, and I really needed to do something more worthwhile. And so I followed the rules and got good grades, and it's where my occupational therapy degree came in, which I feel like I tweaked that a bit so that I could work in mental health and still do some, creative, artwork and that. But I really did. I followed all the rules. I listened to what I should do outside of me.
Hmm.
It backed up on me so much that, I was making some really bad choices, scary choices for myself. I got lucky that made it through all of that without being, totally, um, not relatively unscathed, but maybe, I but so it took me to the therapist couch, and, I never in a million years I truly thought I was happy, and it was killing me. And, did some work and, realized that there's this whole other side of my life of, being artful and creative and playful, that I wasn't allowing myself. And, doing that opened a whole, um, yeah,
So it helped you feel fulfilled, the creativity. Yeah, because you're connected to your heart.
absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Mm.
so like I said, um, if creativity, just the word of, creativity scares the shit out of you, I'm sure there are things in your life that you have been enticed about or excited about, or things that you'd like to try. Maybe call up a friend. Like, I'm thinking of, I always wanted to, it started when I was younger, but I always wanted to get into horseback riding.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so I just signed up for some classes, and I'm telling you,
Awesome.
the first call, it's hard to do because it's outside of your normal schedule. And
Hmm.
maybe a friend along can help you to act out of that comfort zone, but just doing something new and realizing that, this is fun, even though I'm starting from new and I probably suck. Um, um, but doing some of those things that are new and allowing yourself to experience the joy and the fun of it, um,
And you said earlier just to explore,
to explore.
to
And
have it as an exploration exercise, and just explore and go, oh, actually, I quite enjoyed that. It might not be any good, but I enjoyed it.
yes, and the thing that I missed saying that just came to mind is we're so quick to criticize, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And if we can come out of any experience and say, okay, what went right in there? What do I love about that
Hmm.
experience? It might just be that I had myself do it. I
Mhm.
might not do the experience again, but I tried something new. And again, creativity isn't like reinventing the wheel of all time. Horseback riding done a long time, but
Mhm.
because it's new for you, it is allowing your brain to think beyond the limited picture of what we see ourselves, uh,
Mhm.
our abilities.
And you said earlier, I think the gift that you're giving to our listeners, and the link will be in the description at the bottom of this episode, is the 33 quick creative practices. So they're all very, very different, aren't they? So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's so many. So have a look at, I highly recommend you click on that link and delve in and see what appeals to you,
Yeah.
because you never know where it's going to lead.
Yeah, there's 33. I like to like shut my eyes, shut my head, shut my eyes and think of a number between 1 and 33 and yeah, what pops up. And then
Hmm.
challenge yourself just like I'm going to do that one because that is what my soul is connected with, not knowing ahead of time what it is. And yeah, and they're very simple. They're very all of them. I always say when you're really connecting with your creativity, um, there is a sense of joy that makes me kind of giggle. It, ma- yeah, and when I am, especially like when I'm writing, there's a couple of of poems that I wrote that felt like a little um, sacrilegious to me. I married, my husband is very strong in the church, and yeah, it became it was a real act of courage when I left the Christian church to find more of a spiritual one that matches my own. And yeah, definitely felt like a bird alone on the limb on that one.
Hmm.
But it is so, yeah, it's connected with my soul. But anyway, so when I'm able to write from that place of little bit of sad,
Rebel.
yeah, rebel, sassy, hood, which I think my inner self is. And when I do that, and it's always in a playful way. Uh,
Hmm.
and the thing is, in terms of criticism and judgment, we're not going to connect with everybody. We're going to piss some people off. Some people won't get my humor.
And also a lot of it is it's personal, isn't it? It doesn't even have to be shared with anyone if you didn't want
No,
it to be.
no,
I mean,
no. But I,
you're out there and you're sharing, because
yes,
that's the gift that you are. That's your superpowers to
yes.
to to activate play, and through art and create through creativity. Although play and creativity are kind of the same thing, aren't they?
Yes, they
Yeah.
are. But what I'm saying is you might not even be making a thing to be creative,
Hmm.
but you start acting more creatively in your life, which is a little bit different than you have been. And
Hmm.
friends or family members might be a little like, where'd that come from? And she's never been like that before. And all of this judgment starts coming, but it is much more attached to who you are on a real soul level. And
Hmm.
I think I listened to this in your last podcast. Not sure where it turned where it popped in, but it was on self-love. And we get concerned about that people will abandon us as we
Hmm.
are acting more creatively, more soul-centered, more that might be different. And the thing is, I think that the worst thing that we can possibly do is abandon ourselves.
Mm.
Rather with the feeling of, that other people might abandon us. This is the only life that I get to
Hmm.
lead
Live.
life. Yep.
Mm.
And so the worst thing that I can possibly do is to abandon that self and feel like she is not worth being heard, um, and having the expression that she was put on this earth for.
Hmm.
And so I feel like that is the more the sadder notion.
Yes. Yeah.
And so learning to live in just little tiny ways at first, you'll find your people. You will find your people that you'll resonate with, that will cheer you on. And yeah, I think that you mentioned that is finding
Hmm.
cheerleaders that make you feel good. And um, you know, I always find a lot of times the very dangerous things that I feel like I'm doing when I'm stepping out there and it feels like, there are so many people that applaud me
Hmm.
for stepping out in that quote unquote dangerous. And it becomes like that, that was easy button from what store? I forget what store it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that was easy.
Yeah, I can't remember that was. And yes, we did talk about it in the last episode. Um, and
About
it
being,
creates so much. The more you are yourself. So being creative is also giving you the confidence to do that, to be more yourself. The more you are attracting the right people that are your people, that you, as you said, resonate with you, you resonate with them, and that then has an impact on how easy those relationships are. And then again, there's that self, because you're attracting those sorts of people, then you're boosting your self-worth. And because you're in that authentic self of exploring and discovering what lights you up and what nourishes your soul, you there's such a sense of freedom around that. And
absolutely.
you are creating, you're saying I matter, and you're expressing yourself through your creativity, through your play. And the more you do that, the more you're saying yes to yourself, and
Yes.
that has that big impact of self-love and self-worth.
Yes.
So yes, awesome, awesome.
What-
So before we go, let's do a card. Let's read. You take one of your magical cards, and there's a link also in the text at the bottom to be able to purchase uh, Laurie's Oracle set.
Yes,
So that will be
so
there
there
as well.
is, yes, on that page, there's a link to any of the art that I might do. There's a link to my book, and yes, a link to my cards, which just came out in November of last year. So, um,
Mhm.
just an initial prototype, but gosh, I just love them. I love how they feel in my hand. I love the colors of them. I love that. Yeah. Um, so yeah, think of a number between 1 and 5.
Three.
Great.
Three. It's
So,
got to be three. Three
so
is the
yeah,
magic number.
so 3, and like
Mhm.
I gave you guys 33 different short
Mm.
practice. 3 is my creative number in numerology, and so
Mhm.
33 is a master number. Um, and I will say, as a short aside, I think I might have shuffled more than 3 times, so I'll stop here. Um, I will say that for any of you who are trying to connect more with, whether it's you're interested in numerology, and this will piss some people off because it may differ from other belief, other people that have studied this and believe this. But whether it's numerology or reading your dreams or reading a tarot deck or any of those, just like anything, there are rules on how to read things and a structure, but you begin to create a language with your team. And so I'm not sure if 33 is actually a master creative number in the official people that do numerology, because I have
Mhm.
studied it like maybe about this amount,
A little
but
centimeter or two.
I have begun to create a language of understanding with my, whether it's my inner self, my inner child, God, the universe, whoever you want, and I, they respond with what I have assigned to be those numbers. So yeah, 33. whether other people numerology have, said it's something else. 33 is my creative number. Okay. You get to make the rules in your life.
Absolutely.
Fund. So there's 4 different ways to work with these. You can, for those of you who are on YouTube, you can look at this and decide what are the words that come off that page. Like, what would one word description be for you? Um,
That's a good way of looking at the picture. So this card is really attractive. It's very bright, and guess what? There's a huge amount of reddy pink in it.
Aha, yes. Okay. So I would like the one word that stops, it's either bright or vibrant. And so you might use that, you'd take that word, whatever you described, and you might just do a quick um coloring on a page of your own of, what is vibrant, what is bright, what is, and so
Mhm.
you um and then you might do a writing from the picture that you see. Or you turn it over, and these were poetry or prose that came out of meditations that I've done in the past. And I didn't put the picture necessarily with us, so it's always interesting. I like to also look at that. How
Mhm.
did vibrant or bright mix with the poetry that I'm about?
Mm.
Um, And as I read this poetry, pay attention if there is any word or phrase that really pops out at you. Either, again, whether it's ooh, I really like that, or I don't.
Mhm.
And so jot that down on your paper as you hear that. So
Okay.
first, oh, don't I love when things go unexplainably, wonderfully, easily right, when bounty falls from the trees like fat, juicy apples.
Mhm.
When intuition abounds and I'm left breathless with clarity and understanding, when I feel love from everyone around me, making me feel 10 feet tall. But oh, how we slide from that easy comfort, finding the only true guarantee to life is change, and that this bliss too shall pass, but is truly in the darkness, the mystery, the shadow, that we rub up against the roughness of ourselves, weep away the struggle like stones in the ocean, and find the true gold of our soul.
Mm.
So I'd ask you, where does that bring you
That
immediately?
was, yeah, that was just very, very uplifting. The thing that jarred with me was that the bliss will pass. That was
Mhm.
like, no, I don't want the bliss to pass. But no, that was beautiful, and that there's gold and there's abundance and love. So yeah,
So, yeah,
that was
so
beautiful.
thank you. Thank you for responding off the top of your head. That's but the thing that I love that it brought up for me that we haven't talked about is that creativity is born out of the angst and the struggle.
Hmm.
And so, it's truly in the darkness, the mystery, and the shadow that we're rubbing up against, this very uncomfortableness. It's a place we haven't been there before. Often we're coming like that's another reason why I don't jump into my artwork when I'm feeling, I don't want to go apply my paint, and I know it's, probably the best thing because this is where creativity happens.
Hmm.
In a space of I don't know. I'm not sure. And it is that connection with, like we said, there are 75 trillion cells that is connected to all that is, and that we can come to our answers where that true goal of our soul is found. And so, yeah, not to be, you hear that all the time, not to be afraid of that darkness, that mystery, that I don't know what I'm doing, the mistake,
Mhm.
because that's where true creativity is born.
Mhm. I
One
love
of
that.
and one of my teachers, I don't know if we're getting to the end here, but one of my
Mhm.
teachers said that create technique. Technique only occurs from somebody else's play. And so it is like that playfulness that we have with a discomfort of I don't know what I'm doing, that creates the technique and the answers for tomorrow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Love that, Laurie. Thank you so, so much. It's been incredible having you here. And
Thank
please,
you.
thank you, listeners, for listening. Um, please subscribe so you don't miss out when we release another episode. And you'll be able to reach Laurie through wholeartsconnection.com.
Oh,
And we'll include those links. So thank you very much, Laurie.
yes, thanks so much, Jenny. Really appreciated being here. We could talk forever.
We could, but we gotta put it. Thank you. Until next time, audience and listeners, and another episode. I think there's one more episode of Feb Love Fest. Take care. Yay. Bye. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your comments and feedback. And if you've enjoyed it, please click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and feel free to share. Join us for our next episode of the Exponential Potential podcast. Ignite your potential and thrive in times of great change.